Oh, baby. Wow. We have quite the race to talk about today. One of the closest finishes in NASCAR history. Playoff implications. We've got so much to talk about. I'm sorry, I just drove like 10 hours across 3 states, so I'm kind of wore out. But we're gonna make a video. Let's talk about Talladega. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. That's right, we're back. It's been a few days since I did a typical Out of the Groove episode. That's because I've been traveling. If you pay attention to any of my social medias, Twitter, Instagram, you'll notice I've been posting a lot from Talladega because that's right, this weekend I made my first ever trip to that great super speedway. Watched the truck race Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, watched the cup race on Sunday. Unfortunately, the rain cut my weekend a little bit short. I could not stay for the race when it was resumed here on Monday. Stumbling over my words, this has been just such a long day. Mainly because I had a 10-hour drive ahead of me and I had stuff to do tomorrow, so I couldn't stay for the race today, unfortunately, but I really wanted to because I knew from the glimpse we saw earlier on Sunday that it was going to be one for the ages. And yeah, Sunday's race, or Monday's race, whatever you want to say, did not disappoint. We're going to talk. This is going to be kind of an abbreviated episode of Out of the Groove because I have so many other things I need to work on, and like I said, I didn't get to watch the entire race. I listened to most of it on my drive home, and towards the end I stopped at a gas station near Gainesville, Florida to watch the final 20 laps or so on my phone. So I did see the ending, and I went back and saw some of the big controversial wrecks because there were some big wrecks in this race, typical Talladega, and then I did watch the first 55 laps or so in person. So we're going to talk about the race, we're going to talk about the racing, we're going to talk about the points implications, and we're going to analyze some of those controversial wrecks. Alright, let's get started. Where should we start? I'm going to start by talking about the top finishers because at the end of this episode I want to spend a lot of time talking about the actual racing we saw, the product, the groovy gauge. We're going to do all that stuff at the end of this episode, so I want to go ahead and start and get out of the way. Our top finishers. Winner for today's race was Ryan Blaney, a clutch win. He came into Talladega this weekend 22 points below the cut line after a not so great run at Dover last week. Ryan Blaney, don't think of him as a great plate racer. Penske cars are known for winning this fall Talladega race when they need to, and it looked like they worked well together. Fords were strong, and Ryan Blaney got the push when he needed it, snagged the victory from the clutches of defeat, won this race by about a foot. Yeah, right there, this photo, that's pretty much the margin of victory over Ryan Newman. It was an insane finish, had cars wrecking on the last lap. Newman kind of forced Blaney below the double yellow line. We'll talk about that controversy first, I guess. After the truck race on Saturday ended in controversy when Johnny Sauter was penalized for forcing Riley Herbst below the double yellow line. Ryan Newman here seemingly came down ever so slightly. You can see, clear as day on this replay, Newman did not leave a full car width's worth of space there on that inside lane there, and so forced Blaney therefore to kind of slide onto the apron, but Blaney did not lift, and that's ultimately what gave Ryan Blaney the win as he was able to come back up onto the track, onto the racing surface, and complete that pass, win this race by about this much. And now I really like Ryan Blaney. This is a huge clutch performance win. Reminds me a lot of when Brad Keselowski won this race in 2014. He was in a must-win scenario after not having a very good round of the playoffs, and he came through. Talladega is a random track. You can have a great car and finish last very easily at Talladega. Not the kind of track you want to be in a must-win situation at, but Ryan Blaney, much like his teammate did 5 years ago, came through in this race in the biggest moment and in the biggest way. So Ryan Blaney is locked into the round of 8, really good for him. Ryan Newman came oh so close to getting a win in that Roush Fenway car. He was eliminated from the playoffs in the last round, but imagine if he hadn't. Remember, he almost made it to this round of the playoffs. Imagine if he had advanced to this round and won this race. Ryan Newman is this close this year from being a round of 8 driver. That's just, NASCAR's crazy like that, man. Next 2 drivers there, Denny Hamlin, Eric Almirola. Some heavyweights. Almirola won this race a year ago. Denny Hamlin, another strong performance to hopefully vault himself into the round of 8. Looking pretty good on points as far as points are concerned, but we'll look at that at the end. But after those 4, typical Talladega fashion, you got some underdogs that are not used to running up this close to the front that survived the carnage and got just season-making finishes out of it. Mike McDowell, top 5, Front Row Motorsports, always has good restrictor plate or good super speedway cars. Austin Dillon, a strong 6, looked like he would have a shot at this win. He and his brother Ty Dillon were trying to work together on the second to last restart. My boy Corey LaJoie with a top 10 finish. You don't expect that go-fast racing car to sniff the lead, but Corey LaJoie was up there in contention. Huge day for him. Chase Elliott was involved in the first big one, but didn't get too much damage. Bounced back to finish inside the top 10. Stenhouse had a fast car once again, just couldn't find the right partners late to get to the front where he needed to be. Ty Dillon there rounding out the top 10. I remember it took him so long to finally get a top 10. He's already got 2 stage wins this year, a top 10 for Ty Dillon. Another great performance this year. Joey Logano, another playoff driver who had a catastrophic day at Dover, lost all of his bonus points, needed a solid run at Talladega, did well in the first 2 stages, and managed to hold on to and salvage an 11th place finish despite having some serious damage on that car. Really a huge, just make-do day. Really important that they were able to persevere and get a solid finish out of this because now that has helped them out immensely in the points, given that so many other playoff drivers, because you don't see very many playoff guys in this top 20, so many of his competitors were involved in wrecks, so he made up a lot of points today. Most notably, guys like Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson finished well outside the top 30. Let's go and look at the first big wreck from today's race. This was the first one that was kind of controversial. Alex Bowman was out front. This was towards the end of stage 2. Joey Logano gets a huge push from Clint Boyer, and Bowman goes down to block a little late. Logano hits him pretty square on the bumper, but it just got Bowman all out of sorts. Bowman blocking a little too late there and a little too early in this race perhaps for that kind of aggressiveness. Sent him spinning up in front of the entire pack. It wrecked a lot of really good cars, a lot of playoff cars. Credit to Alex Bowman. He took the blame for it afterwards. He acknowledged that he threw a bad block. It was too late. Didn't realize that the 22 had such a run, which in defense of Alex Bowman here, yeah, that 22 car did have a much stronger run than we typically saw in this race, but I also can't fault Alex Bowman too bad here because we've seen this happen a lot in recent years. Turn 3, especially at these super speedway tracks. Guys love such a run. It's easy to misjudge blocks like that. But Alex Bowman, I will kind of go after Bowman here a little bit. He's had a few of these sort of bonehead mistakes in these playoffs. He's had some great moments in these playoffs, like the Charlotte Roval, bouncing back to finish second and sneak into the second round of the playoffs was an incredible performance, one of the grittiest performances I've seen from him as a driver, but he's also had some just stupid moments. His issues with Austin Dillon at Richmond leading to payback, that was just silly. His issues with Bubba Wallace at the Roval, as well as him spinning out on lap 1 at the Roval, that's just not playoff driver worthy. And then this mistake here at Talladega resulting in a lot of wrecked race cars. Alex Bowman's had a lot of downs in these playoffs. I still think he's a great driver, but he has been on not so hot of a roll. He's not making very many friends in the garage area lately, but he did not have a good finish in this race. A few other playoff drivers as well, I'll mention. Byron was 33rd. Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. were both outside the top 25. Kyle Larson was the worst finishing playoff driver though, but luckily for him, he did win at Dover last week, so it doesn't really matter. Let's go and look really quick at the point standings after today's race at Talladega with just 1 race left in the second round, Kansas next weekend. As you can see, that playoff bubble is not very close actually. Alex Bowman is the first driver out, but he is 18 points outside of the top 8. Bad break for Hendrick Motorsports. You have to believe that Talladega was circled as one of their best tracks in these entire playoffs, given that they finished 1-2 at Talladega in the spring. And now after Talladega, all 3 of their cars are outside of the top 8. Not a good day for Hendrick Motorsports after qualifying in the top 4 spots. We go to Kansas this next week though, and I will say guys like Bowman, Chase Elliott, really everyone below the cut line there, I think has a very good shot at winning that race. Now William Byron's going to win. I'd be a little skeptical of just because Byron's never won before. I tend to doubt that he's going to suddenly win in his biggest and most pressure-filled moment, but those other 11 drivers out there, in these playoffs still, I think have a very good shot of winning at Kansas, including the Hendrick cars. I think the Hendrick cars have been pretty good at some of these mile and a halves this year. I think Bowman, Elliott, not out of it. But my point is, these 4 guys below the cut line are kind of got to go into this weekend thinking must win. Obviously, if a guy like Keselowski or Logano does wreck or have a mechanical failure early on, then yeah, Bowman or Elliott or even Boyer could point their way in. Not too difficult to imagine that, but I think they need to address this weekend. They need to come into this weekend thinking must win, bring your best stuff, be aggressive with strategy. I think they have to look at it as must win, but not entirely out of it. Just interesting that gap is pretty heavy. But at the top there, Blaney and Larson, surprising. They're the only 2 currently locked in. Kyle Busch, those Gibbs guys, they've been decent, I guess, in this round, but it's Blaney and Larson at the top of the board there with wins. So we'll see what happens at Kansas, 1.5 miles, but it's going to be an interesting one. All right, so I addressed the top finishers, I addressed the point standings and everything. Now I just want to talk about Talladega, and more importantly, I want to talk about this current NASCAR Super Speedway rules package that they have set up with the huge rear spoilers, with the wicker bills on them and everything. This current package that NASCAR has at super speedways without restrictor plates, 550 horsepower under the hood, this is, in my opinion, the best super speedway racing package NASCAR has ever had. I mean, I grew up and I went back and watched replays of 2000, 2001, and I grew up in the Gen 4 era, and those super speedway pack racing packages were great as well. I'm not saying that this year's package is way better than anything we've ever seen before, but I think this year's package that we've seen at Daytona and Talladega is the best version of super speedway racing because you can gain momentum quickly, you can get runs and pass people. One of the biggest issues we've had at these super speedway tracks in the Gen 6 era era is that it's way too hard to pass the leader. And the closer you get to the front, the more the runs just kind of stall out, the more the top and the bottom line are kind of just equal, or in some worst cases, there becomes just one dominant lane and you really can't make anything happen on your own. And if you try to duck out of line, you're screwed. With this current package, you can hang in there enough by yourself that you can attract more help. And that's why we haven't seen in the super speedway races this year, minus the Clash, which in fairness, we still ran restrictor plates in that race and didn't have the wicker bill. So that one, I'm not really going to count that. That's not the same package I'm talking about. But minus that race, every other super speedway race this year with this package, we really haven't seen that many just single file, boring stretches for any significant amount of time. It's been 2 and 3 wide consistently, and it's been incredibly entertaining to watch. I've looked at fan response from the Daytona 500 through the other Talladega race, the rain-shortened Daytona race in the summer, and this one. I've looked at fan response across all sorts of platforms, and it has been so incredibly positive, pretty much across the board. I can't think of any other type of racetrack, any other package that brings this many fans together, and uniformly everyone agrees that this is good. This is great racing. When I was younger, I used to really not like the super speedway races that much, mainly because I was like a specific fan of like Matt Kenseth, and I wanted him to do well, and I didn't like how the super speedway races felt too random. Guys who I felt like weren't really deserving were up there winning races. I was like, oh, they only won because it's a super speedway race. Since I've gotten older, and since, Matt Kenseth isn't racing anymore, and I don't really have any one driver I'm super duper passionate about right now, I'm just kind of watching as a generic fan, super speedway races have been so great the last year or two, especially this year. And that's why I want to commend NASCAR for this package. I think it's fair to debate whether the package we've seen the rest of this year at mile and a half, short tracks and everything, we can debate whether or not that's better for the sport or not. I think that's fair. But in my opinion, there is no question that this year's rules package at the super speedways has been phenomenal. Yes, there's still big wrecks. I've seen some people criticize it saying, oh, but because it's tighter, because the runs are stronger and everything, it causes more wrecks, it tears up more equipment, it costs people more money. I've seen that as an actual criticism, and to that, we've been tearing up cars in every single iteration of pack racing I can remember. In the year 2000, we would still have big ones pretty much every single super speedway race. The term the big one was not invented this year. No, that has been around for decades, because it doesn't matter what type of car you have, Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen 6, doesn't matter what package you have, high downforce, low downforce, restrictor plates, no restrictor plates, does not matter any of that. Point is, 9 races out of 10 at these super speedways, you're going to see a big one. And, a lot of these times you're going to see multiple big ones in one race. And so I don't think you can blame this package for why we saw 2 or 3 pretty big wrecks today. I mean, you guys saw this one, right? Going down the backstretch with like 5 to go. Brendan Gaughan went flying into turn 3. Obviously, you don't want to see guys flip. You don't want to see guys in any serious danger. But at the same time, big wrecks are just a part of pack racing, and they always have been. They're not new to this package specifically. I don't want to hear drivers especially complaining that the runs are too fast, that the cars are too hard to handle, that it's too easy to wreck. I do not want to hear drivers complaining that these cars are too hard to drive in a pack. Every single wreck in today's race could have been avoided if the driver or spotter or a combination of both were more on the same page. I mean, Alex Bowman throwing that block was just a bad decision by Alex Bowman. Kurt Busch spun out 2 people in a pack today. He spun out William Byron, then later on he spun out Kyle Busch. That's one driver. That's Kurt Busch wrecked 2 people today. Bubba Walsh tried to slide up in line. He wasn't clear. That caused a wreck. That's what I'm saying. Pretty much every wreck today could have easily been avoided if the drivers or the spotters or whoever was just paying attention. People are going to make mistakes. And the difference is between super speedways and other average races that when one guy makes a mistake, it can cost a lot of people very quickly. So that being said, I think today's race was outstanding. The little bit I watched, and I've gone back and watched some since the race was happened live, and obviously what I saw in person was super exciting. Gonna put this race on my Groovy Gauge. It's a 100%. It's the second 100% I think of the year. I think the only other one I gave was the All-Star race, but Daytona I gave a very high score. The other Daytona race, even though it was rain short, and I still gave a pretty high score. Talladega, I don't remember what I gave the first Talladega race, but I think I gave it a pretty high score too, even though that one also had weather issues. Weather, man, Mother Nature hates super speedway racing, I guess, this year. Even the Clash, I think, was rain short. Like, how does this happen? But yeah, this is 100%. This was a phenomenal race. Yes, we wrecked a lot of cars. Yes, that sucks, and that's not fun to see people who had nothing to do with the wreck get caught up in wrecks. But that's just the nature of super speedway racing. It's a spectacle. Did you see Twitter blow up after every wreck? Did you guys see or hear? I could hear the fan response in the crowd when Chase Elliott took the lead yesterday. It was loud. Plate racing gets the fans, gets the crowd amped, gets the crowd involved, gets people excited in a way no other track, or no other type of track, at least on the NASCAR circuit, does. So say what you will about super speedway racing. It's a spectacle. It's what sets NASCAR apart from every other major motorsport in the world. No other major motorsport, or any motorsport for that matter, puts on racing like we saw at Talladega today and yesterday. No other sport comes close to that, and that's what sets NASCAR apart. That's why NASCAR fans get so excited and turn out for these races year in, year out, because there's nothing else like it. So I thought this this race was pretty much perfect, 100% on the groovy gauge. Loved it, loved it. Wish I could have seen the whole thing. Wish I could have stayed there for the race. Gosh darn it, why? Why did it have to rain? And why did NASCAR have to push the race to 1 p.m. Central Time? Don't they usually run the race on Monday at like 11 a.m. or noon? Like if they'd done that, I might have been able to stay, but with it being 1 o'clock, I couldn't stay. I have too many things to do this week. I'm a very busy person, contrary to what it might seem. But yeah, I had an awesome time at Talladega. So many awesome things happened this weekend. I met a whole bunch of you guys, so shout out to you if you came up and said hi, took photos or whatever. That was really cool. Obviously, I'll have a couple videos from that weekend coming out here in the next few days. Gotta get to work on those after this video. So thank you guys, as always, for the support. Thank you all for watching. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram. Big thank you again to my Patreon supporters. Michael Harrison, at you as the stars. Cameron James, John Koblenz, Jason R. Long, Wesley Donaldson, Isaac Dennison, Mika Suzuki, iFantasyRace.com, TheRacingInsiders.com, Matthew Koulopoulos, Pepe Lucius, Jeremy Conkling, Emilio Garcia, Joey DiMicino, Sky Racing Forums, Bryce Schumacher, Scott McNew, Colton Austin, Bradley Pelletier, and the rest of these incredible Patreon supporters. I couldn't do these things like go to the racetrack, make videos, talk about the race like this. I couldn't do all that without the support I get from all of you on Patreon, so thank you a ton for supporting me and supporting the show. I got at least 2 more Talladega videos to upload this week. We'll see, maybe even be 3, probably just gonna be 2 though. But besides that, I also should have at least 1 or 2 more Out of the Grooves up this week, so a lot of content coming your way here the next few days, which should make up for my kind of relative inactivity the last week or so. But stay tuned for all that. Thank you as always for the support. Thank you all for watching. Gosh, today was a fun race. Looking forward to next week at Kansas too. If the spring was any indication, this one might be pretty exciting as well. So should be a great ending to round 2. I'm excited for it. Hope you all are too. And I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.